just had a thought, man. I've thought this before, but um, so you know how like most people are pretty much unconscious morons, just animals, like just easily programmed, trained, pretty much whatever. It's the same thing. You program your dogs, basically. You train your dogs um, to act a certain way, to do certain things. Same with your children. Think about this. So, if most living things are easily programmed, then we essentially live in a simulation. Listen to this. If, like, a quarter of 1% of us are, like, actually aware of what's going on and, like, can actually read things, man, I'm so high right now. But, like those of us that are truly awake, I know there's a lot of people who think they're awake, but I don't think they're awake. I think they're starting to wake up, maybe. But I mean, it like me for a while. Even now a little bit, I can put myself to sleep pretty easily just by sitting and getting high and watching TV and stuff. Shut my mind off. Sometimes getting high just does the opposite and makes me think a lot deeper. But like, if we're in a simulation and only some of us are able to like take control and actually do things purposefully without being completely swayed by emotions and like social pressures and peer pressure, whatever, like that stuff pretty much controls 95, probably more like 99% of the world. Okay. Like, programming was passed down. What we program to our children is always passed down. So essentially, we are kind of like living robots in a way. We're easy to program, but then you can also take control of them from the outside. And by the outside, I guess I would mean the spirit world. So if you can take control of a human as a spirit or as a soul, whatever you want to call it, then like we're pretty much playing a game. What if the game is man, it's so hard to explain, but I feel like when I think about it, it makes sense. But like, what if the game is just to, what if, because I mean, this spirit world wouldn't make any sense put into any kind of words. It just wouldn't, because you can't explain something that's unfathomable as a human. Like explaining dark matter, we have absolutely no clue. We can't even think of what it is. It makes no sense. Same with, so like dark matter, they think is kind of like a web. It attaches everything to everything. So essentially, like when you scope out and try to look at the whole universe, it kind of just looks like a brain with neurons. Like it's almost like we're a bunch of neurons. So what if we're essentially a biological computer somehow? Because I mean, our DNA stores data. We have passed down data in our DNA that tells our bodies what to do and how to do things. Like how we think, the amount of anger and rage we carry with us at all times, the amount of deep thinking we do, tons of stuff. And I know scientists and doctors are talking about this right now. And fudge, man. Like, what if we are essentially God's brain? Think about that for a second. God would have to be some kind of massively enormous being. Like, it would, in an eternal world, or who knows? Because eternity for something, say we are God's brain or whatever, and kind of like life, if you think about something and you focus on it, then you can bring it to fruition. You can make it happen. So what if God is just some giant being, just like us, in a different world, where you can essentially be like perfect with, or what if we are essentially someone's imagination? We are God's imagination. Imagination has endless possibilities, and they believe that the universe does as well. I mean, if there's infinite possibilities and infinite universes and infinite everything, then who's to say we aren't just part of an imagination of some larger being? And if it's true, we are, like the Bible says, if we are created in His image, then God is literally a giant human, or a human that which we are all sort of pretty much part of. Oh shoot, man. I don't know. Like, you can go deep in this rabbit hole of talking about how, because I've done it several times, got high, not even high sometimes, a lot of times not high, but just sit and think about, like, so what if the universe is just the brain of another human who is in the universe from the brain of another human, and infinite. That infinite. Infinitely that. Perpetual universe within a universe scenario. To the point of, that's uncomfortable to think about, because something that's endless is just strange to think about. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because holy cow, like, sometimes I can sit for like hour, or not hours, but maybe an hour at a time, and just think about this stuff. And like, imagine even realms that are within this realm, basically, but they kind of interact in like a mechanical sense. When something is imagined or being imagined, then things have to turn and work a certain way in order to get the outcome that you want. So our imagination isn't perfect. And most of the time when we imagine or dream something, we don't have control of it. Like, sometimes we think we do. Some people, I guess, can take control of their dreams, but I think it's pretty rare. Which makes me think that my idea, I think, of God being like a perfect human being, and within his imagination he can control anything he wants because he's perfect and all powerful, all knowing, yada yada, you know the rest. But holy cow, like what? Really doesn't change anything. If anything, it gives me something to wrap my head around of what God is or who God is or what we are, why we're here, how things can make sense. Oh, and like at the beginning of the Bible in Genesis 1, whatever, when God says, let there be light, time works differently. If you're some giant being or whatever, some giant perfect being, when you spark your imagination to imagine something, or maybe when you're born or whatever, when it says, let there be light, maybe that's when God was born, like his life form. Time for him would be very different for time for us. For us, in order for things to turn on and start working, I think everything would have to start progressively from just like a baby. You start from a single cell, not a single cell, but you start from, you start from one cell, turn to two, yada yada. I think that right there is pretty much how things happened. The big boom is pretty much right, if that's the case. Because everything, for us, it's a really, really long time, 13.6 billion years, whatever. But for a life form in a different realm, that might be like a year, I don't know. It helps put together some of the what science. I know a lot of scientists have been out to prove religion incorrect or wrong at every turn, so it can help make them both right pretty much. But I still think that, much like an imagination, if you imagine it and you think about it and envision it, then you can really see it pretty much. Now, just like us, if we are also creators of our own universe, God in his own image, then we can create things from our imaginations. And I think, and it says, if you look, you will see, or you will find, or if you ask, you shall receive. If you're looking for something, you're going to find something. If you're imagining what the universe could mean or what it could be, then it can be that, right? Through all things, God is possible. That's wrong. Through God, all things are possible. Okay. I'm gonna finish this bag of vape and watch Survivor. If you've actually listened to this, thanks for watching, man. Peace.